see what I see. That's no good. That cuts off the microphone. Oh, stickers. Don't think we want those. At least 1 minute of content is needed to create a short. Well, can anybody see me? Can anybody send me a chat or something like that so I can see that there's somebody out there? Top fans. Well, could somebody send me a thumbs up so I know that I'm speaking to somebody? That way up. Well, I suggest what I'll do is I'll just talk, and later on we'll discover if anybody heard me. It's Sunday night, so it's at the end of a somewhat long and stressful weekend. Where's the camera? Can't see where the camera is. I think I'd look down there. I think that's it. Yeah, Friday night, about 7 o'clock, Kevin from the McLaughlin Boat Company, who had been on the boat literally all day, finally said the rude word, and we agreed that it was high time to stop mucking about. The engine was still overheating. We'd done 2 trial runs up and down the river, and he couldn't find it what it was. So I offered him a beer, which he declined because everybody takes their drink driving very seriously in Ireland, which is very right and proper. And off he went, and I wasn't driving anywhere, so I had a beer and some pistachios, and then another one, and felt somewhat sorry for myself. But it was a glorious evening, so I had another beer and felt a bit better. Various people invited me out. There was a concert in the park on the other side of the river, and Steve and his music buddies said, "Oh, you must come to that." And even Thiago came along in a dinghy and said he'd give me a lift across, because once they close the gates in the new Ross Boatyard, if you haven't got yourself a key, you can't get out, and you certainly can't get back in again. So I had another beer, and I sat in the cockpit and started rationalizing. The great plan was obviously shot to hell uh, through no fault of mine, which made it worse. But on the other hand, great plans have been shot to hell before, and they will again, and we survive. So I then spent the next day, that was Saturday, cancelling all the arrangements I'd made. Rang my friend Patrick, who was going to come down in his camper to Poole for a curry and 16 pints. And of course, the businesses that wouldn't be open on Saturday, I shall have to ring on Monday. That's Crusader Sales and so on and so forth. And then, of course, there's all the packages which I'd arranged to be sent to places. Oh, hello. How is your day going? Somebody says. Thank you very much. It's going much better than the Saturday or Friday night, certainly. And I then started sitting down and making the travel arrangements because I'm going to meet the family in an Airbnb in Abingdon, which is somewhere in Oxfordshire. And to get there from here without the original plan of sailing to Poole took quite some doing. You know, you do the usual thing, just like passage planning. You work out where you want to be at what time, and then you work out backwards how to get there. And so I did this, and it's all terribly complicated. You know, which should I fly to Luton? Should I fly to Stansted or Heathrow and all that sort of thing? I had one quote for a flight for, I think it was 288 euros, and another for 87. I mean, how does that work? Do you know what I did in the end? In the end, I asked AI. Now, AI is going to be the death of the human race because they're not going to need us. But isn't it wonderful? I just typed in give me travel arrangements from New Ross Boatyard to postcode in England, arriving by 4 p.m. on Friday. About 2 or 3 seconds, it came back with the complete itinerary there and back. And I was about to book the flights. And then I suddenly thought, what if? And I looked at the Windy app. And by Tuesday, all that nasty, strong easterly in the channel will have disappeared. And I thought, what's the tide doing on Tuesday? Well, the high tide is late on Tuesday, a bit earlier on Monday, of course. And so I thought, well, if on Tuesday I were to leave at 4 o'clock, 3 hours down the river, it wouldn't be running hard against me by then, even if it was. It's only a couple of knots, which is not what you want, but you can make headway against it. And I then started extrapolating. If I left on Tuesday evening, 36 hours to Land's End, Wednesday evening, that'll be Thursday morning. I've got to be in Oxfordshire on Friday afternoon. So Thursday morning, I could get to Falmouth. I could even get to Plymouth. If I got to Plymouth on Thursday evening, I would have all day Friday to get to the Airbnb in Oxfordshire. And then, of course, coming back on the Sunday afternoon, I would be able to leave on the Monday morning and get to Poole certainly within 36 hours. So that would be Monday morning, Tuesday morning, probably Tuesday evening. Good heavens. Oh, no, it's not the wrong Wednesday. It's a week later. Then I could meet Crusader Sales. They could tell me whether my mainsail is good for another 15,000 miles. And I could even get to the Ocean Cruising Club party in Falmouth. This thing had legs. All that matters now, of course, is whether the engine is going to work. I mean, it's conceivable, given 8 hours on Monday and even Tuesday morning, another 4 hours. That's a full 12 hours for these guys to fix the engine. Now, the question is, can they do it in situ? Can they do it without removing the engine again? We don't know, because we don't know what's wrong with it. I've asked a Facebook sailing group, which is full of amateur engineers, for ideas. Of course, everybody's coming up with is your inlet blocked and all sorts of things like that. No, it's not blocked. Obviously, that's the first thing you look at. Is the water going around the engine? Well, yes, he's taken off the hoses going around the engine. The problem is, it's nice, but I've got to go now. Goodbye and have a good day, says somebody. Hey, goodbye. And thanks for joining me. I don't know how many people we have got. Maybe 10 people. I can see at the top there. So we've got a little time now. Do post any questions you've got. Let me know. Meanwhile, I'm feeling an awful lot more enthusiastic about the project, because I think I might actually get to sail. Because if I don't, then I'm going to have to be lifted out anyway, because as soon as we put the boat in the water, we discovered one of the cockpit drain seacocks was dripping, about a drip every 10, 15 seconds, which is not much, and it's perfectly acceptable. Actually, it's a bit much even for a stern plant. But over 24 hours, that's going to be an awful lot of water in the boat. Obviously, I have an automatic bilge pump, but this is not good. Got to fix that before the big trip. Am I the only boat doing the yes, I invented the Chisholm challenge, actually. Not surprising that nobody's organising it, but everybody has forgotten Francis Chichester. See, when I was 11 years old and my parents took me to the Walton and Frinton Yacht Club, He had just won the first single-handed transatlantic race in Gypsy Moth 3. Gypsy Moth 3 was, I think, 39 feet. Um, Good, steady, long keel cruising boat. And he got there in something like 42 days, I think it seemed to remember. And he was an absolute hero for this, but it was nothing compared to when he came back to Plymouth at the end of the circumnavigation. Uh, he did stop in Sydney, of course, but then nobody had ever gone round stopping only once. And, he only stopped there for 6 weeks because he was trying to emulate what the Cutty Sark used to do, which was it would carry general cargo from Plymouth to Sydney, do a quick turnaround, and set off with wool back to the UK. And so no sooner had he arrived than he did, some basic maintenance. Well, more than basic. The boat was such a complete failure that they hauled her out and actually added a section to the keel. They sort of screwed an extra bit onto it in the hope of making the boat more stable. Didn't make the slightest difference. And there was this great campaign to persuade him not to continue because a famous photograph was taken of him as he took his first steps on land in Australia. And he looked 100 years old. This poor old man, after 5 months on a boat, could hardly stand up. People were helping him and holding his arms and things like that. And of course, the public thought this is absurd. This man, if he sets off for Cape Horn, he'll be drowned for sure. And there was a big campaign to try and stop him. But Chichester carried on, arrived back in Plymouth in May, I think it must have been, of 1967, at the age of 67. Yes, yeah. And I believe 250,000 people turned up on Plymouth Hoe to welcome him. And that was only the half of it, because the next thing he did was to sail round with the crew this time to Greenwich. So he sailed all the way up the Channel and into the Thames estuary and up the Thames and moored at Greenwich, where he was knighted by the Queen with the same sword that Queen Elizabeth I had used for Sir Francis Drake. And it was televised all over the world. And the global television audience, I did look it up, and it basically rivaled the moon landing. It was the biggest event of the year for sure. And he became an instant celebrity, most famous sailor in the world. And then guess what happened? I mean, this is so tragic, really, because a year later, a man called Robin Knox Johnson, a professional sea captain, set off in a very old, tubby little boat called Sue Haley, just 32 feet on deck. And he sailed all the way around the world without stopping. And of course, he became a hero. Didn't get a knighthood. I mean, he was only about late 20s, so a bit young for a knighthood. He got one later, of course. But he got the CBE for doing that. He became the commander of the British Empire. Sounds very grand. And his is the name that everybody remembers. Of course, don't forget, where is this blasted camera? Is it up here? Am I looking at it now? Can't see. I'm looking at it now. I don't know. Never mind. Yeah, Chichester. Rather, Robin Knox Johnson. Of course, Knox Johnson then went on to make a career in yachting. First of all, he what do you call it? He established a marina on the west coast of Scotland. He was the sort of figurehead, but it was a business project, and he made a lot of money out of it. He started the Clipper race, of course, which still continues, and he's still running it. And that is the most amazing institution, because with that, he takes absolute neophytes, complete beginners, people who have never even sailed a mirror dinghy. And they pay, which fair enough, it's a business, they pay to join one of the ships, one of the yachts. They're 60, 70-foot yachts, and they have a crew of maybe a dozen, and they race around the world. And there are thousands, I believe, thousands of people who have done at least one leg of the Clipper race. Some have been all the way around, but of course, that's quite expensive. And by the time they finish, they are not just competent crew; they are proper seamen and women. They know their onions. Of course, it's very heavily regulated from a safety point of view. He can't possibly afford to lose anybody. Although I believe that may have happened, if I'm thinking correctly. Accidents do happen at sea, but safety is a huge, huge consideration. Everybody wears harnesses. They don't just clip on anywhere. They clip onto designated strong points, which have been specially designed and to take the strain and all that sort of thing. And so Sir Robin Knox Johnson, is as famous now, possibly more famous than he was back in 1968 when he returned from his circumnavigation. How's the weather in Ireland? Well, Scott from Florida, let me show you. Ooh, let's take you outside. I'm going to need some sunglasses for this because this is outside. It's a glorious evening, as you can see. And I would be outside to welcome you to this live stream, but the sun was shining on the screen and I really couldn't see anything. But that is New Ross over there. And there's the bridge. And this is the pontoon, where I've been marooned ever since Friday. And there, of course, is the backyard. And there are many worse places to be. And you can, during the daytime, when the gates open, you can get out of the yard and you're immediately on what they call the Greenway. And Ireland has done wonderful things with its old railway tracks, because in the old days, back in the early 1900s, there were little railways all over Ireland. And now, of course, it's far more economical to have great big buses which travel the length and breadth of the country. There are a few railways, but nothing like the number there used to be. And all the old railway tracks have been turned into what they call the greenways, which are broad tarmac footpaths. You can cycle along them or walk or run, whatever you like, as long as you don't take a motor car. And people really do use them. And there's one just here, and I've been walking along in it, and right beside it is a garage, petrol station, gas station, with a nice little cafe, outside seating. So for the last couple of weeks, when the guys have been tearing the boat apart, and I've thought about having lunch, and I thought, well, there's nowhere to sit. Everything's covered in disassembled engine and God knows what. And I would go up to the Wild Bean Cafe and have a lovely salad in a bowl. And the trouble was, the first day I bought myself a nice cold beer, and somebody came out and told me I wasn't allowed to drink that in public. So since then it's been iced tea, but all right. So yes, I do recommend New Ross. Everybody's been thoroughly nice to me, but that's Ireland. A friend came by. When was it? Must have been, yes, it was Saturday. So we'd had the debacle of the engine not working on Friday, and I was about to climb the mast. That was it, because I got some stuff to do up there, and I got to check the rig, of course. I was getting ready to climb the mast, and Steve came by with this guy's buying his boat, guy from Dublin called Thiago, and they said, we don't want to hold you up. And I said, absolutely not. And we sat in the cockpit and we had a beer. And I said, you see, the thing is, I'm a stranger to the country, but I am trying to adopt the culture. And the culture in Ireland is that whatever you're doing, it is not more important than stopping to sit down and talk to somebody. And so that's what we do. We always make the point of doing that, except not quite. Because later on, I suddenly I suddenly remembered that I had to do this book club, the Old Man Sailing Book Club, which, if you don't know about it, is on YouTube, on the Old Man Sailing YouTube channel. Every Sunday night, midnight on Sunday, I publish a YouTube video in which I read from one of my books while people watch nice videos of the boat sailing along in the sunshine, for instance. Trouble is, of course, the last couple of weeks the boat has not been sailing along in the sunshine. So I had to do video of me sanding the bottom and painting things like that. And I thought, well, that's fair enough. That's what I'm doing. And now, of course, for this last one, this morning, the early hours of this morning, I had to post a video to go with the narration. And I suddenly realized that I was expecting to have gathered a whole lot of sailing video as I sailed across to England. But of course, I wasn't. I hadn't got anything. So I sort of dashed around, filled myself putting on the sail cover back on, and that was about 5 minutes. That's no good. So I took the GoPro camera and I walked all around the boat yard for about 15 minutes. And I thought, this is shameful. I mean, this is not what people expect at all, but there's nothing else I could do. So I apologized and put it out. But would you believe it? People left comments saying they loved the walk around the boatyard. So there's no accounting for folks. But anyway, it got me out of a hole. But I would really, really hope that either on Monday or on Tuesday, the engine gets going and we're back on track. And I will be setting off for Land's End. I won't get as far as Poole, I don't think, because I have to get myself to this Airbnb in Oxfordshire by 4 o'clock on Friday. On the Friday, the whole family is getting together. That's Tamsin, me, our 4 children, and Owen's fiancée Liana. So there'll be 7 of us. And I have ordered us each an Old Man Sailing cap. It's a bit like this, a bit bigger than this, is a bit small, I think. It's got Old Man Sailing here and the little Old Man Sailing drawing. And we're all going to wear these and do a group photo. And then, of course, we all have to be out by Sunday morning. So we'll have a walk, have lunch, and then all disperse, which means I would get back to Plymouth on Sunday night. I could leave on Monday morning, and I could be in Poole on Wednesday, and I could meet Paul Leese of Crusader Sails, who really seems to honestly believe that my mainsail, which has done 2, 3, 4 Atlantic crossings, is good for another 15,000 miles. I'm not sure it is. And the last thing I want is trouble with it. So I'm going to take it along. He's going to look at it. And either he'll simply, don't know what we're going to do. Because he won't have time to valet it. He was going to take it away for the weekend and valet it. But if I'm going to go down to Falmouth, suppose I could leave it with him and I could sail to Falmouth with the trysail. I could do that. Yeah, I'll do that. And then come back and pick it up. So we'll see how we get on. Anyway, it'd be good to have lots of video of the trysail because I'm very keen on the trysail. If you've read the original Old Man Sailing book, you'll know all about that. I sailed all the way back from the Azores with it. And it is a fantastic sail. It doesn't need a lot of wind, admittedly. And if you have the wind behind, then you scratch all the anodizing, the beautiful gold anodizing off the mast, because they're not piston hanks, they're, oh, can't remember the name of it, witchyard fastenings, which run up the stay. They will get pressed against the mast and they'll move and scratch it. And so if you look at my mast, I'll show you. You see, oh, God, it's windy. I don't know if you can see there the scratches, and they are at the intervals all up the mast. Not very beautiful, but then Samsara is not a flashy boat where everything shines and gets polished. She is particularly a workmanlike boat where everything actually works. That's the idea. In fact, if you look at my tow rail here, that used to have a wooden capping, teak. It used to be a great big teak cap on the top, which it was convenient because you could kneel on it, and it was more comfortable, and it looked good. It was also hugely expensive because teak is banned, and you can't import teak in Europe. So unless you're going to go to Guatemala, where it actually grows wild in the forest, it and is cheaper than plywood because you don't have to manufacture it. Anywhere else, it's expensive. So the reason I took it off was because it was screwed down every 25 centimeters with a Socking Great M6 screw. And I believed that an awful lot of these were causing leaks. So we took it all off, filled all the screw holes with epoxy, and painted. And so it doesn't look nearly as smart, but it certainly should be waterproof. So there we are. We've only got a couple of minutes left. So if anybody got a quick question, post it now, because it is that time of day. And I can tell you that the crew of Nunki, which was the Amel Super Maramu just ahead of me, who I lent my outboard, they'd left me 4 cans of Stella. Isn't that kind of them? And one of them is in the fridge right now, and it's got my name on it. So with that and a bowl of pistachios, I shall begin my evening. And full of confidence that tomorrow we'll get going. What's the longest? Somebody said, what's the longest trip I've done? That would be the last one, which is, I'm writing in the voyage. Did you have sponsors for the big trip? No sponsors. First of all, the longest voyage, it was from Torquay in the south coast of England. I was heading for Tristan da Cunha, and I ran out of time because you have to get there before they shut down for Christmas on December the 19th. And I was clearly not going to do it. So I turned left and had 1,000 miles into the wind going to St. Helena. And then from St. Helena, where I stopped for a couple of weeks, I went to Grenada. So I'm forgetting quite how many miles that was, but it was a very long way. It was good preparation for this next trip because it gave me an idea of what I needed on the boat and what I didn't need, and particularly in the matters of food. And it gave me a chance to test out grog instead of beer. I don't know why I keep harping on about beer. People think I'm an alcoholic, which is not, of course, at all the case. I'm most abstemious, but I do like my cold beer. There's nothing, absolutely nothing like it. Now, the other question was a sponsor. No, I haven't got any sponsors. I haven't gone looking for them. Sponsors, somebody's on your back all the time, I think, with a sponsor. And I didn't need a great deal of money to do this. Obviously, I have spent a great deal of money, but that was just the way it was. but we seem to be doing all right. But what I'm hoping is that I'll sell an awful lot of books like this, because that's really what I want to do. Particularly, I'm getting some really nice comments for the book, which is called Faster, Louder, Riskier, Sexier. I know it's a damn good book because when I was reading it through, I just kept on turning the pages. I thought this is cracking, and that was long before anybody else read it. And I just knew because I've been writing all my life. I know what's good, and sure enough, people read it and they came back and said that's the best thing you've ever done. That is fantastic. Trouble was, I had a bad cover and a bad subtitle. So change that. We've now got a good cover, good subtitle, and people are beginning to read it again. And I'm getting some really nice reviews. People are saying they couldn't put it down. They're saying it made them laugh, which was the main thing. And I would be thrilled if I sold 100,000 copies of that, because I believe I can. There are something like 1.5 billion people in the world with ADHD, and a whole lot more who haven't, but who have to put up with somebody who has. And I think all of these people would like to read it. So anyway, there's the plug from our sponsor. There you go. Anyway, we're now actually nearly 2 minutes over time. So until next weekend, I don't know what time of the weekend it's going to be, because next weekend I will be with the family. So I will ask them all if they'd like to join me. I think it might be fun. You can meet them all. And so until next week, as they say, goodbye. I've got to find out how to get rid of this now, haven't I? Oh, there it is. Bye-bye.